Hey, good evening. Welcome back, Hope Shot family. Welcome to another episode of Addiction to Success. Tonight we have Travis on, and he's going to share his story of recovery from active addiction. Guys, if you're just jumping on here, go ahead and say what's up. Let us know you're here. Also, man, we got a good surprise for tonight. At the end of the broadcast, after he shares the story, we have a contest going for whoever shares this video. We're going to pick 3 people to receive the gift tonight from us. And I'm pretty excited about that. And so let me see. We got Terry on here. And I know Terry, she actually bought your book.
She did. Yeah, she actually she messaged me earlier today. I think she's on like chapter 6 right now. So
That's
that's
awesome.
pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, she's a longtime follower. It's pretty cool. And she's always supporting us, and it's really cool. And she's like, "Yo, you need to get a hold of this dude Travis." And I was like, "Yeah, of course. I
That's
already
so
know him."
awesome.
We were already friends at that time, so it's
Yeah.
pretty cool. Let's see. We got Brenda on here. What's up, Brenda? We got Kelly. And let's see. We got Brenda, Minnesota here. Hey, what's up,
Yeah.
Minnesota? And what do you is it, how far is you're from Wisconsin? So how far is that away from Minnesota? Is like right next to each other?
Yeah, we're right next door.
Yeah, neighbors.
Oh, yeah, that's cool. Exactly.
What's up, Donna? What's up, Chris? Hey guys, it's share this live video with your friends, your family, many groups that you guys might have. We have a contest going on later where we're going to be giving something away after this live. So I'm going to, I'm going to say a little bit about Travis because I don't really know him. I met him online, and that's what's cool about social media is that we can meet anybody online and we can all share stories of success from active addiction, hear different stories of how they grew up, and it's pretty cool. So I met Travis in a group. I seen some photos, I seen his story, and I thought it was pretty cool and inspiring. So I friended him on Facebook, and we finally got a date settled down to him to come on here and tell his story. And so I will give it over to you, Travis. So go ahead and take it away.
All right, cool, man. Justin, thank you first of all for having me on. Appreciate it, brother. So, anyway, yeah, I'm gonna start. So, I used to be a police officer. I think that's where I'm gonna drop the mic and just go from there. Yeah, I was a dignitary protection officer. Worked to protect one of Wisconsin's governors. I did that for about 2 years, and then I was a security supervisor at UW Madison for about a year and a half. Um, Basically, my story starts while I was doing dignitary protection. I was real big into powerlifting at the time, just huge into powerlifting. And if I wasn't protecting the governor, I was at the gym. Um, with that came injuries, and I had some minor injuries, nothing really major, until one day I hurt my back. And basically, I knew it was something bad more than something just like a muscle pull because I heard a pop. And I was like, all right, a pop, lower back, not great. And then I immediately started having back spasms. So go to a doctor and end up getting a supply of 30 days of Oxy. At the time, I thought nothing of it. I just knew that, look, I need this drug to even be able to put my shoes on. I was just really struggling with the back injury. And every time I had to go to work, I had to put my duty belt on. So it would sit right on top of the 2 discs that I herniated. And it was just excruciating. So the Oxy for the first 30 days helped. It did its job. I'm not going to lie. It wasn't until after that 30 days, basically, the doctor that prescribed it said I had to go see my primary care doctor and they were going to hook me up with a specialist. Excuse me. Um, so that was cool. And the only problem was at the time, Wisconsin was going through, we had protests going on. So I got called into the Capitol building to help with the protest. And this was like all hands on deck. Our governor was trying to get rid of unions, and that was a big deal. So We had teachers unions, truckers unions, basically any kind of union you can think of protesting. Anyway, so it's all hands on deck. I can't go to the doctor, and I'm putting it off anyway because I'm still thinking to myself, okay, powerlifting in the back of my head. I had won a regional competition and I was getting ready for Worlds in Las Vegas. So I didn't want to miss that. I'm like, look, if somehow I can just take the oxy, continue lifting, I'll get through it. I'll figure it out. So instead of going to my primary care doctor, I went to a different walk-in. Basically, I did what's called doctor shopping, and a lot of you guys are familiar with that. But anyway, so I went to a walk-in, told him, "Yeah, I hurt my back." Didn't really tell him the extent of it, just said, "I'm having back spasms. I can't straighten up. I can't put my shoes on," things like that. The doctor right away looked at my back and was like, "Oh my god." And he at the time prescribed me 30 days or 90 days, excuse me, of oxys of 30s and then something for back spasms and something else to help me sleep. It was over that 90-day period that I started to develop a relationship with the drug. And I call it a relationship because it was bad, like, in the sense that first I started lying about how often I was taking it. I was supposed to take it every 3 to 4 hours, and I was taking it, like, every 1 to 2 hours. So that was the first, like, issue that I had with it. The next issue was taking it 1 to every 2 hours. I was noticing that I wasn't getting the same effects. Like, I was starting to feel pain more often. It just wasn't lasting nearly as long. So I read online that if you crush one and snorted it orally, that would help in terms of upload. Whether or not that's true, no idea, but that's what I did. So I ended up crushing one, snorting it orally, and then taking one um, just the normal way, and that's how I was starting my day, and this is while I'm doing dignitary protection. So, it's, pretty fucked up, and to be honest, like, I'm not really proud of those days. It's just that's where I was at, so and I would do that basically throughout my day to combat, like, the nods. I would pretty much mix, pre-workout in a Monster, so I was almost doing, like, a speedball, and then I would every 2 hours do the Oxy again, and then mix another Monster and pre-workout, and that's how I got through my days. Um, at the end of the day, I crashed really hard, and then I think it was trazodone at the time to sleep. So then I had the trazodone to sleep, and I just repeated that cycle until basically until I couldn't do it anymore. The first thing I ran into was I got cut off. After that 90 days, I couldn't go back to that same doctor because I was supposed to go see a specialist. So I was going to go to a different doctor, but then I ended up going to see my primary care doctor, and he was like, "Look, dude, you're going to have surgery. Like this, you can't mess around with this." Instead of doing the surgery, I still thought, well, if I can take the meds, I can still make it to Worlds. So I ended up reaching out to a guy that I knew through the gym. The dude was big into lifting and he had access to steroids. So I asked him just one time when he was spotting for me, I'm like, "Hey man, do you think you could get me anything pharmaceutical grade?" And he's like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, "Well, like anything pain med, like related at all." And he said he had to hook up through Canada, where he could get veterinarian grade, um, basically opioid based medication. So I jumped at that opportunity. I ended up buying 200 pills at a time from him of this veterinary grade stuff through Canada. And then I started taking that. Um, basically, I took that for about 6 months, as long as I could continue to function on it, I did, and it was crazy. The first thing that with that habit, I was paying, $600 a pop, so $3 a pill, and the first thing I ended up doing was like basically selling anything that I had around the house. Anything like vintage, anything that was worth any kind of money, I sold. Once I got rid of that, then I moved on to like video games. Like I had a vintage Nintendo with like 60, 70 games I sold, stuff like that. After that, I still couldn't afford my habit, which at one point was up to $1,800. I was spending like every 3, 4 weeks. So, and I had a mortgage at the time. I had a wife at the time. She had a horse. So we had a lot of different bills. Anyway, so couldn't afford that. And I started stealing. Um, Basically, so now I'm an officer and I'm stealing to support my habit. I was stealing credit card information from people at the gym I worked out at and then selling that information. So yeah, basically I did that for about another 3, 4 months until one day I got called into my lieutenant's office. I was just about to start the shift just like any other, and he's like, "Hey, Travis, why don't you step in my office for a second? I just need to talk to you." And I was like, "Okay, this probably isn't great, but uh, we'll see what's going on." And as soon as I walked into the office, I saw two plainclothes officers and a detective. And I was like, shit, they're here for me. Like, this is not going to be great. So they sit me down and they grab a stack of papers like this thick, drop it on the desk. And they're like, yeah, this is everything we know about you. Basically, we know you've been stealing credit card information. And and really, what do you have to say to for yourself? And I told him, look, I don't have anything to say. I need to talk to an attorney, which if you ever get in trouble with the police, I recommend don't talk to the police, talk to an attorney. It's the smartest thing you can do because they're not necessarily there to help you in the moment. They're there to make their case. So anyway, that's my little spiel. Be smart, talk to an attorney. Um, Thank you. Yeah, drugs don't discriminate, that's for sure. Anyway, so here I am. I'm basically done at we're going to take you, book you in jail. So I got marched out in my uniform, put in the back of a squad, and taken to county jail. There I got booked and released and got to go home that evening, which I had to have a conversation with my wife at the time about everything that just went on. And pretty much the relationship fell apart from that moment forward. So um, it was, yeah, it was just, it was really rough. And uh, man, so moving forward, basically, I get arrested, get booked and released. It takes about a year for everything to play out in the court systems. During that time, I got sober. I went to a place called Connections Counseling, which was wonderful. They were strength-based counseling, and basically, they helped me get off the pills. I will tell you the way that I did get off the pills was not the best. I opted to detox myself at home once again. This is not something I would recommend anybody do. I would say go get yourself the professional help. I didn't do that. And basically, one reason I didn't do that, I really didn't care at the time if I was going to live or die. I figured I was rolling the dice and I was like, look, I'm going to detox and either I'm going to survive this or I'm not. And that was where my head was at. So I opted to go to a Walgreens, pick up some Pedialyte, get some protein bars, get some water, pretty much everything I thought I needed, thought I'd be able to eat, which I wasn't able to eat at all. It was horrible. But anyway, so I got all geared up for that. And one weekend when my wife was gone, I detoxed myself. And it was just me and my dog. And Um, Basically, kind of from that weekend forward, it was just me and my dog, and that's really like, uh, that's she was my everything. Um, and I ended up writing a book about her called My Life with Karma. Karma was my dog's name. Actually, in the height of my addiction, I ended up rescuing her from a tree at a drug dealer's house. You'll have to read the book to get the full story, but brought her into my life and she became my ride or die. So, anyway, on the weekend that I detoxed, I had Karma there the whole time with me, just kind of watching over me the best she could and keeping me company. And that was enough to kind of pull me through the weekend, which got me into the week. And from there, it got a little easier. I'm not gonna lie, it was still hell, but at least I could semi-function, get myself up off the floor, and get moving. Anyway, so I got a year sober and I was doing well. And then I ended up going to jail. I ended up doing 3 months in jail and another 6 months on the bracelet. And as a former cop, going to jail is absolutely no fun whatsoever. I don't think jail's fun for anybody, but dogs are everything. Yes. But man, jail for me was an extra kind of not fun just because it was the same county where I worked as an officer, and it it could have been bad. It could have been really bad. So fortunately, the one thing that got me through jail was I'm fairly skilled at drawing. So I drew for people. I drew cards. I drew basically everything I could, um, just in trade for like chips or any kind of commissary. I did whatever I could in jail to survive and to get through. So I made it through jail. Did well on the ankle bracelet, basically thought I was turning my life around, and then one night I decided that I could go out drinking. I wasn't gonna use. My whole purpose was that basically I hadn't slept in about a day, day and a half. Um, I didn't know it at the time, but since I've been diagnosed with bipolar as well, so I was going through a manic episode, but didn't really have a label for it at the time, didn't know what was going on, just knew I couldn't sleep, knew I had been up, and figured, look, if I go out to the bar, I'll get a couple hours of drinking in, I'll come home, pass out, and I'll start my next day at day one. So I go out to a bar, get there a little bit after midnight. It's about a mile from my house. I'd driven past this bar 1,000 times before, never even thought about stopping. And just that night, I was like, fuck it. So I stop at this bar, order Long Island right away, with a little ice, and just start putting them back. And in Wisconsin, they make drinks strong to begin with. So I was definitely drinking heavy. I drank about 6 to 8 Long Islands in 2 hours until they called bar close. Then got in my car and decided to drive home. On my way home, I crashed my car into a curb and proceeded to get out. Basically, looked at the car, checked it out, tried to drive it off the curb, couldn't do that. It was too messed up. Was gonna walk home and then decided, first I need to use the bathroom and I'm gonna be sick. So I ended up throwing up on some guy's bushes and peeing in his yard. And basically, in my moment of glory, I was coming down the driveway, leaned up against a car to collect myself, zip my fly, and set off a car alarm. At that point in time, all hell broke loose. So here I am, big dude. I'm over 6 feet, usually weigh about 220. And I hear this neighbor come outside. He's got a flashlight and he's swearing. He's like just yelling all sorts of obscenities, like, if I catch you, blah, blah, blah. and I'm like, okay, I need to hide. So I tried to duck down behind this car in a driveway, and clearly I'm too big. I'm just stupid drunk. Like, this is not going to work. So I'm sticking out, and this guy can see me. So I go reach up, open, get in the car, shut the door, and lock it. What I thought I was going to do from that point, I don't know. But I was at least safe in the car. So he comes up, starts pounding on the glass with this big Maglite flashlight, telling me to get the F out of the car. And I'm like, no, bro, I'm good. I'm going to stay in the car. And he's like, come on, man, you get out of the car, get out of the car. We go back and forth a little bit. And eventually he seemed to calm down. So I'm like, okay, I'll get out of the car. Um, According to the police report, when I got out of the car, he said I lunged at him. I'm pretty sure I took a drunken stumble, and that's when he proceeded to beat me with the Maglite flashlight. So it you can't really tell, but this whole side of my face is actually all titanium. I had my skull cracked in 3 places, and air reached my brain cavity. So the guy beat me pretty severely. And then, according to the police report, because I don't remember any of it, he hit me one last time as hard as he could when I was already out on the ground. So it did a fair amount of damage. I had a traumatic brain injury along with a concussion, and I was immediately taken to the hospital. The first hospital they took me to looked over my wounds. They did some kind of scan. I'm not sure, probably like a CT scan, and they said they couldn't treat me. My wounds were too severe, so then I had to be taken to UW Hospital, which was nearby. Basically got to UW Hospital, and they told me right away, "You're gonna have to consult with surgery, and you're gonna have at least 2 surgeries, 1 to repair your skull and 1 to get the air out of your brain cavity." So, over the next 2 days, I had 2 major surgeries, to repair my skull and to get the air out of my brain cavity. Um, at that point in time, basically, I was just in the bed in the hospital trying to recuperate, and the police show up. I was there for a day and a half, almost 2 days, and the cops came, and since I was on probation at the time from the thefts, earlier that I talked about, they said I had violated my probation by going to the bar, which I did, and I was also getting ticketed for disorderly conduct. So with that, my probation agent was like, "We're gonna revoke you." So I went from basically going out, relapsing, having my skull crushed, a traumatic brain injury, and then now I'm getting revoked on probation, and they took me right back to jail. So instead of recovering from the brain injury in the hospital, I was taken to Dane County Jail to recover. At the jail, they didn't have a medical wing, so they decided the best place for me was to recover in SAG, which is also their solitary confinement. So I spent 7 days recovering from the brain injury in SAG, and basically that was my rock bottom. That was my wake up call to be like, look, dude, either you're gonna end up dead, or I mean, it really didn't get much worse than where I was at. So I decided at that point I was done with everything. I was just that was it. That was my call to, "Hey, I'm gonna get a second chance at this thing." It may not look like it once did, but it was enough for me to decide, "Okay, I'm gonna try to turn this around," and it starts with me being sober. So, I've actually been sober since then. I recently celebrated 8 years. Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate that. And it's, it's been quite the journey. So over the last 8 years, I've pretty much I am fully disabled. That's something that I shared with Justin before, from the injuries I've sustained. No, the dude actually didn't get charged with anything. That's a great question. Because he articulated that I lunged at him and he was afraid for his safety, he was not charged. So, yeah, anyway, so basically, yeah, sorry about that, guys. I sometimes I have a hard time too with the head injury. Like I was telling Justin, I don't have short-term memory, so it's difficult to pick up and kind of try to start off where I was. But over the last 8 years, pretty much I've gone from being sober to being a sober mentor to now I've most recently completed CCAR training, which is pretty cool to be your recovery coach. And I'm also writing for Recovery Today magazine. So I've done a lot with my life that's recovery based. And probably the biggest thing I did was I wrote this, My Life with Karma. So that's my book. It's basically it tells my complete journey, everything, what it was like in jail to what it was like to live with a brain injury and to try to basically right the ship from there. It's been wild and it's really amazing that I'm able to actually share my story with you guys today with all the head trauma that I've had and just able to get this out and tell people, man, there is hope. Even if you're at your darkest of depths, even if you know you've hit that rock bottom, there's still a place for you, and you're still worth it. So, I think to anyone listening, thank you guys. But like, man, my story it could be so much darker if I didn't have people that believed in me along the way and tried to pick me up, especially when I was down. So, and one of those people actually wasn't a person, it was my dog Karma. And like I said, she was my ride or die. But when everything in my life fell apart and my wife ended up leaving, fortunately, she left Karma behind. And that really was the one thing that I always held on to, even when I was super dope sick, even when I couldn't control myself. I always looked and said, the one thing I can take care of is Karma, and I can do my best for her. And that's some days that's the best I could do was just take care of the dog. But at the very least, I did that and gave her a great life, that I'm proud of. So, uh, anyway, that's basically my story, and I'm gonna kick it over to Justin.
Hey man, thank you for sharing that, dude. And I'm glad because I did ask him a little bit before the show. Hey, he said he had a traumatic brain injury. I was like, oh, what was that? What happened? And he's like, well, it's part of my story. I was like, well, save it. And I'm glad you
Yeah,
did because it kind of like sums it all together and brings it all together, man. Because that's a crazy story, man. Getting beat with a flashlight, from relapsing. You know,
yeah,
it's the things that can happen, while we're out there doing whatever we're doing, because I know that alcohol, I had way more craziness with alcohol. I got stabbed nine times because of alcohol. Like I got put in ICU because of alcohol, because I, you know, I don't stop just there. And those Long Island iced teas, bro. Those things should be illegal.
oh, exactly, dude. You said it.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it's not just
yes,
Wisconsin, my friend. It's everywhere. Those Long Island iced teas, man. It's like 5 different liquors in one. It's those things are deadly.
yeah,
I definitely am intrigued by your book. Like I didn't really. Oh, and guys, I just want to tell you that if you guys share this live, we're gonna pick 3 people. I might do it while we're on, or I might do it later on after we get done and make a post about it. But if you guys share this live video, he's giving away 3 copies of his book, which is super cool, and I appreciate you doing that. So for some of our viewers, but I didn't know when thinking of Life with Karma. You know what I mean? I'm thinking, it's about karma. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, man, and that's the play on words I wanted. So because I wanted people to go into it, and all of a sudden, like when you read her story and you read how I got her, like people are just they're hooked. And it's great because her story is truly a story of triumph. Like she came from literally being chained to a tree at a drug house to coming into my life at only 30 pounds, way underweight, just absolutely emaciated. And I brought her back to health, and she wound up being just the coolest animal. Like, and the great thing was too, she helped so many people that were in recovery because when I was working as a mentor, you know how it's awkward, especially early
Right.
on. Like you go to some of those events and you're like, wow, man, this is I don't know. I don't know if I'm weird or everyone else is weird, but and she would just come with me and break the ice, and I could just focus on being sober while she entertained people, and it was great. Just to have that with me and to have that be able to kind of break the ice and be my introduction to people was really cool, and I miss her every day, but I think that's another thing that I mean, we could always talk about is look, when early on in sobriety, you do some of the hardest things are some of the easiest things. And like just early on, just going and bringing yourself to a meeting or bringing yourself to meet someone new or trying a sober event. All these things may seem stupid, but they change your habits and they change your life eventually. And that's really what you're aiming for. And I just, man, I'm so glad to the people that got me out of my shell, especially after the head injury, and were like, Travis, you got to come out like to a sober event, not to, go out. But yeah,
Yeah.
and those are the people that I really respect and admire.
No, I love that. Yeah. And I mean, definitely changing the habits because we're so used to having those bad habits of, using and getting and not trusting people. And it's hard to be around people, like not feeling, even worthy enough to be around people or feel like you even belong anywhere. That's a lot of our problems. Well, my problem,
Yeah.
I can speak for me, but a lot of us that are deal with addiction have that social anxiety. The going out in crowds and meeting people, meeting new people, and like you said with the dog thing, that's an icebreaker all day long. Who doesn't love an animal? You know what I mean? A dog. Um, so that's definitely that book now intrigues me even more. And I'm super excited to read it now. I didn't it's like you think it's one thing and it turns into something else, and I think that's super cool.
Thank you,
Um
man.
yeah, so I want to read a few of these comments real quick. So we got Jessica James says, so glad Travis, I'm hearing about your experience, strength, and hope. The hope shot. I love that she does that all the way from the Hoosier land. What's up, Jessica? And then we got Tiffany, which is my wife. My heart goes out to you, and she's actually right here. But uh,
That's cool.
my heart goes out to you. I'm so happy you're here to share your story. Thank you, and congratulations on your book in 8 years. Uh,
Thank you, Tiffany. I really appreciate that.
Kelly says God shows up in mysterious ways. He is always on time and is always faithful. Amen to
That's
that.
so true.
hmm we got Christina. Such an amazing story, brother. You're doing amazing. Dog backwards is God, and she has what helped you get through it. That is true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. I like that. Is she still with you?
No, unfortunately, she passed away from cancer about 2.5 years ago. So, yeah,
So sorry to hear that.
that's all right. Thanks, man.
A lot of people that are like on this with us, Johnny and Lisa, they're big dog parents, and so is Nate and Kelly and Caesar are big animal lovers, and Tiffany's an animal. I'm a half animal lover,
Okay,
but I'm getting used to it. Uh,
gotcha.
I just never, it's like I love animals, but I've had so many bad. It was just because I was a bad owner, though.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know how to raise the right animal. My Tiffany, dude, she's trained this dog, and I love this animal now. So,
Well,
but
that's awesome, man.
yeah, everybody on here is super dog oriented, and it's super cool. Did you ever get another dog?
Yeah, I actually so I have a service dog. He's a German Shepherd. He's very cool. And then we have a super neurotic little Pomsky. So he's a Pomeranian Husky mix. Dude, he's our comic relief in our
Yeah,
house. Yeah, that dog he's nuts, but we love him. So
that's cool.
yeah,
We got a
yeah, for sure.
corgi, and she's a riot. She I can make her talk like crazy.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
We got Ali. God is something fierce. We got let's see. We got Gina says God is using you. The gift is in the journey. Thank you for a great hope shot. And we have Brenda, and I see this on the side. It says, I've been on Dilaudid and fentanyl 15 years. It doesn't seem to cover my pain as much, but I don't dare take more than I should because I get cut off. They said if I didn't have the pain meds, I wouldn't be able to walk. So scared on what to do. That's something you're just going to have to, work through it and talk to your doctor because, doctors know the best. We're just here to talk about recovery and what worked for us. But when it comes to injuries and not knowing exactly, with the pain meds, if you need it, you need it. But that's definitely something that's medical more. It's not so. Um,
Yeah, I think that's great advice. The best advice I would say, be honest with your primary care doctor, have that conversation and just
mhm.
go from there. So,
Yeah, see if it's something you could maybe possibly at least dose down on, or maybe, it just depends on you if you feel like you want to or if you don't, because I know that I mean opiates was my thing too. So and it all from injuries and stuff like that, but wasn't as much as some people's, but they're giving it out like candy back in the day for anything, sprained ankles,
yeah,
paper cuts. All right. So Christina says shared already. Never know who may need to hear the story of hope. Exactly.
that's
Um,
awesome. Thank you for sharing, Christina. Very
and
cool.
let's see. I got Kelly. She's one of us. Says thank you for sharing your story. Um, Scott says I need a meeting. I need to know where they're at in Port Richey. I got you, Scott. Reach out to me on Messenger. I got you. He's around my town. Oh,
Oh, okay.
Kelly.
Very cool.
Kelly, dogs are the best. We don't deserve their devotion. They love no matter what.
Yes.
And we got Christina got two fur babies, cats, and when we get a bigger place, definitely getting a dog. Also have a snake who is 6 foot long, red-tailed boa. My sponsor's dog is 140-pound German Shepherd and is 1 year old and he is huge, dude.
Wow.
Those things do get listen. German Shepherds get huge
Yeah.
quick. Like their paws are like huge.
Yeah, exactly. Like mine, he weighs right around 100 pounds, and I think he's a big boy. So 140 pounds, good Lord, that's a big dog.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they get huge, man. I'm that's why I love my dog because it's small. I like little
Oh, yeah.
small dogs. It's almost like cats, but I don't like cats. So, oh man. So Travis, thank you so much for being on here. It's always amazing to hear other people's stories, and I keep saying that, and it's definitely gets a little bit of a different perspectives every time we hear somebody else's story of what they've been through and how they got here. And I think it's cool, you know, that like the comment earlier, addiction doesn't discriminate, you know.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on here. I just want to say everybody that has shared this, I'm going to actually go back on the live after we end, and I'm going to pick 3 people, and I'm gonna let Travis know who they are and get your information, and then we can send you a book. We're gonna 3 books of Life with Karma, written by Travis. That is, I'm excited to read too. So, thanks again, Travis, for being here.
Yeah.
And
Justin, thank you again for having me on, man, allowing me to share my story. I really appreciate it. So thank you.
yeah, no problem, Travis. Thank you. And I will get in touch with you after this live, and then we can go from there on the books.
Sounds good. Thank
All
you.
right, guys. This Sunday, come out and hear some Hope. We got our live on Sundays where we do topics. I hope you guys enjoyed the game night that we did last Saturday, and we're going to integrate that back into, we might do another night. We might do a Friday night. We're working on some things, trying to come up with something creative so we have some more fun. Maybe do a great game night on Fridays, you know, come up with something interesting. But this Sunday, come check us out, 8 p.m. right here live on the Hope Shot, and we'll hope to see you then. Good night. Love you guys.